Hi there, quilting friends. Welcome back to Straight Stitching, where we're working on the 2026 Mosaics and More Block of the Month. Today is the start of month 4, so we're going to be putting together the 4th block, and that block is called Odds and Ends. So if you are a member of the club, you will have access to this information in the learning portal. If you're not a member of the club, I will put a link down below so that you can click on the website and check out the information to see if this block of the month is something that you're interested in working on. One thing I do want to share is no matter where you join the block of the month throughout the year, you will have access to all of the other files. So no worries if you're starting with us in month 4, month 6, or month 8. It doesn't matter. You'll have access to all of the files. So today we're going to do odds and ends, as I mentioned. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, this is a copy of the pattern. So again, if you are a member, you can go into the portal and download this pattern. In the pattern, it has all the information that you will need to complete the block. So for this particular block, we're going to use we're going to use 3 different fabrics, and I have them already here pre-cut out. So our fabric A, we're going to need 2 pieces that are 8 inches by 2 inches, and then we'll have 4 pieces that are 6.5 by 2 inches. Our C fabric, we have 1 piece that's 4 inches squared, 1 piece that is 3.5 inches squared, and then we have 4 pieces that are 6.5 by 2. And then finally, we have our C fabric, where we have 1 piece that measures 4 inches squared, and then we have 2 pieces that measure at 8 inches, 8 by 2. So the first thing we're going to do is to create our half square triangles. And so to do that, we're going to need our 4-inch square pieces. So I'm going to just remove everything else. So we'll be using these 2 pieces here. So they both measure 4 inches squared. And what we're going to do is we're going to align them right sides together. Well, actually, the first thing we're going to do is to take our lighter piece, and that is this pink part here, this pink piece. And we're going to draw a diagonal on the back, just lining up our ruler and drawing not quite lined up. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so we have our diagonal line drawn on the back of our lighter fabric. And so what we're going to do now is to take these 2 pieces of material, and we're going to line them up right sides together. So the next thing we're going to do is to stick a pin in so that we can transport the fabric to our sewing machine and not have the materials move while we're transporting it. And so what we're going to do when we get to our sewing machine is we're going to sew along both sides of this line 1/4 inch away on both sides. So we're going to end up with 2 seams that are on both sides of this line. So I'm going to take it away, and I'll be back with that completed. Next, we're going to cut diagonally from corner to corner on the drawn line. We're going to finger press our half square triangles open, finger press the seams open. You can, of course, just take this to your iron and press to the dark side. I like to press with my seams open, so that's why I'm just doing a quick finger press here to open the seams. And now I'm going to take them to my iron to flatten the seams open. In the next step, we're going to trim our 2 HST1 subunits. We're going to trim them to 3.5 inches squared. So here's one HST1 subunit. Now, if you don't have a ruler that measures exactly the size that you need, you can also trim down using a larger ruler. So I'm going to demonstrate that here. So this is a 5.5 inch ruler by OmniGrip. So I'm going to just take this again. I'm going to line the diagonal up on the diagonal of the half square triangle. And then I'm going to just trim along here to create 2 straight edges. Okay, so next what you want to do is to take your ruler and you want to measure or line your ruler up onto your fabric at the size of the half square triangle that you're looking to make. And so for this one, we're making half square triangles that are 3.5 inches square. So I'm just pulling the ruler down so that I line it up on both sides at the 3.5 inch mark. And so I have that. I'm just double checking, and now I'm going to trim. Okay, so we have our 2 trimmed HST 1 subunits, and I'm going to just set them aside for a moment, and I'll quickly use them again. So we're going to take them and we're going to sew them to our additional 2 pieces of B material, which is actually acting as the background for this particular project. And so we're going to just line them up as such here. The next thing our instructions tell us is that we're going to take an HST1 subunit and a B2 square, and we're going to sew them together. So I'm just going to flip this over, and we're going to sew these 2 pieces of material together using a 1/4 inch seam, and we're going to do the same for the bottom. So we're going to take this B2 square and we're going to sew it to our HST1 subunit. Again, for both of them, we're just going to sew a 1/4 inch using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we'll be right back. So we've completed that step, and so now we have sewn our HST1 subunit to our B2 squares. The next thing we're going to do is to press our seams, and again, I'm going to finger press mine open, and then I'm going to press them open with my iron. You can press them to the side or open, whatever is your preference. So in the next step, what we're going to do is to just sew these 2 pieces together. So you're just going to flip them over. You want to line up your seams. I will admit, if you do press them to one side, sometimes lining up the seams in this step is a little easier because you can nest the materials together. But you can also get a very good line up here by pressing your seams open. So again, it is a matter of personal preference. I'm going to just pin them to make sure I have them lined up. And so then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance down this edge here. Okay, so we have sewn the center of our block together. So I'm going to just set it aside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our A1 rectangle and our C2 rectangle, which are the 8 by 2 inch rectangles here. We're going to take these together and we're going to create 2 strip pieces. So we're going to just line them up here, and we're going to sew them together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we'll just sew right along the edge of both pieces here. Okay, so we have our 2 strip sets. I'm going to just finger press. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these to the iron. So we're going to press the seams open, and then, okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to subcut each of these strip sets into 2-inch wide rectangles. Okay, so in our next step, we're going to take our subcut pieces of our strip set here, and then we're going to sew them together. You just want to do a little flip here so that we have alternating colors, and we're going to end up with our 4 corner subunits. Okay, so for each of the 4 corner subunits, we're going to just flip the pieces over. We're going to line up our seams, and then we're going to sew them together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so once you've sewn your 4 corner pieces together, your corner subunits, you want to make sure you press your seams open or to the side, whichever is your preference. And so now I'm going to just set these pieces aside, and then we're going to move on to our last subunit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our A2 rectangles and our B3 rectangles, and we're going to do very much like we just did. We're going to line them up and then sew them with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Completed with this activity. It's going to be like this. Okay, so we have all of our subunits laid out together. We have a pretty good visual of what our block is going to look like. So next we're going to just sew the subunits together to complete the block. And we're going to do them 1 row at a time. So I'm going to, this is our row 1. Row 2 encompasses our centerpiece here. And then our last row here is row 3. So we're going to just line up our seams and sew. Okay, so we have our 3 rows sewn together. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the seams for each of the rows, and then we're going to come back and then we're going to piece the rows together to complete the final block. Okay, so we have the 3 rows sewn. The seams are pressed. So the next thing we're going to do is to sew each of the rows together. So I'm going to start by sewing row 1 to row 2. And I'm just going to flip this over here, and I'm going to line up the seams. So you'll see that there are 4 different seams that I need to make sure I line up. So I'm going to just flip this here, and I'm going to use a couple of pins. Okay, and I'm also going to pin row 3 to row 2, and that's because row 2 is it's wide enough with that nice large center piece there. You can get both the first and third rows pinned on without interfering with each other when you actually go to do the sewing. Okay, so here we are. We have completed block number 4. This is the odds and ends block. If we've done everything perfectly, our block should measure 12.5. So not quite perfect, but it will definitely work in our final quilt. So 12.5 inches squared is your expectation for the measurement once you've completed the block. So that's block 4, odds and ends. So thank you for joining me for month 4. Again, this was odds and ends. Next month, we're going to be working on block number 5, and that block is the Old Mill block. So do stick around. If you are not a member of the block of the month, the Mosaics and More 2026 block of the month, I do encourage you to join. In this video, we did share all the measurements, but you know, sometimes it's just helpful to have a written copy of the pattern. So looking forward to next month, and I hope you will join me here again on Straight Stitching. Thanks for joining and have a great day. Please do me a really huge favor. Doesn't cost you anything. But if you enjoyed this video or any of my other videos and you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, and a comment would be very much appreciated. I love getting comments from my viewers. I'm pretty quick about responding back just because I like to have that open feedback loop so I know what I'm doing here is something that you are interested in seeing. And if there's anything new or different that you want to see, please leave it in the comments. Who knows, that might be one of the next videos that I share here. So again, thanks for watching. This has been Tiffany with Straight Stitching with our 2026 Mosaics and More block of the month. Thanks for joining. Have a great evening.